My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. In the early 20th century, Americans had become alarmed at the disappearing forests in the eastern United States. Whether through private land purchases, deforestation, mining, or other activities, the beautiful forests of the East were vanishing. Where once stood primeval forests of giant eastern hemlocks, now stood stumps. As a result, wildfires spread through these devastated lands. Waterways were polluted, and little of Penn's woods remained. Thankfully, lawmakers listened to the alarm bells of conservationists and in 1911 passed the Weeks Act. Named after Massachusetts Congressman John Weeks, the legislation allowed the use of federal funding to purchase forest land for conservation in the eastern United States. The legislation, which was signed into law by President Howard Taft, is one of the most successful land conservation efforts in the history of the United States. And it was thanks to this law that we have the Allegheny National Forest. Created in 1923, the Allegheny National Forest spans over 500,000 acres in northwestern Pennsylvania. The sheer size of the forest is incredible. At about 802 square miles, the National Forest is over 3/4 of the land size of Rhode Island, 77.5% actually. This spectacular piece of public land offers a sanctuary for outdoor adventurers, wildlife lovers, and history buffs alike. Whether you're seeking the thrill of hiking over 200 miles of trails, the serenity of fishing in pristine lakes, or the majesty of the towering trees and diverse wildlife, this forest has it all. And since the forest covers such a wide variety of Pennsylvania public land, you can have as a diverse experience as the very land you're exploring. You can hop from any number of small towns right into the forest, providing easy access for those who want to enjoy local communities as much as the forest. Is that not your vibe? Not your scene? Don't worry. There are hundreds of thousands of acres to escape the hustle and bustle of civilization. It's not that hard to find a place for yourself and yourself alone. No crowds, no music blaring, just stunning nature. And as you might expect, the activities available are plenty. It's got everything you might be looking for and even more. But before we learn more about the forest, here's the stats. The Allegheny National Forest is a 513,175 acre forest located in Warren, McKean, Forest, and Elk counties. Available activities include hiking, biking, swimming, canoeing and kayaking, ATV riding, picnicking, fishing, hunting, camping, sightseeing, snowmobiling, and cross-country skiing. A notable feature of the forest is its diverse landscape and recreation opportunities. Allegheny National Forest derives its name from the Lenape language. Allegheny is said to mean good river, or best flowing river of the hills, or beautiful stream. Nearby towns include Kane, Warren, Bradford, Ridgway, St. Mary's, and Tionesta. State lands that are close by include Chapman, Cook Forest, Kinsey Bridge, Elk, Bendigo, and Clear Creek State Parks, as well as Corn Planter, Susquehannock, and Elk State Forests. You may enjoy the forest if you enjoy hundreds of miles of trails, scenery, and history to explore. I'm excited to welcome Jamie Feichels to the podcast. Jamie is the Recreation Program Manager at Allegheny National Forest. Jamie, thanks so much for joining the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
How would you describe the Allegheny National Forest to someone who's never been there before?
For someone that's never been to the Allegheny National Forest before, I would say that it's situated on the Allegheny Plateau, which is in the northwestern corner of Pennsylvania. It's also in the northwestern corner of the Pennsylvania Wilds region. It's a little bit over 500,000 acres, 514,029 acres to be exact. We have a slogan, the land of many uses, and that really captures our vision of a healthy, vigorous working forest, which provides timber and wood products, watershed protection, access to underground minerals, ties to cultural history, and big diversity of wildlife habitats and outstanding outdoor recreation opportunities. And those recreation opportunities are what I'm here to talk about today, and we'll dive more into them. But one of the most notable features we have is a 12,000-acre Allegheny Reservoir, which provides a lot of boating, camping, and fishing opportunities. Otherwise, on our forest, we have a lot of, camping, hunting, fishing, ATV riding, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, tons of different recreation. And finally, I would say that the forest is a deciduous forest, and so a lot of our hardwood leaves change colors in the fall, which provides spectacular views for anyone coming in the fall. Usually late September, early October is big on the leaf peeping season for people to see the changing colors of the leaves around the forest.
What do you love most about the forest?
So what I love most about the Allegheny National Forest is, surprisingly not the forest itself, but actually the people. There's such passion, work ethic, and dedication of our employees and partners and our local communities. Everybody really comes together to keep the forest going. We have resource professionals that are dedicated to protecting the environment, uh, in the process of also, harvesting our natural resources and offering recreational opportunities. So the nature of our work is we work with a lot of nonprofits and volunteer groups to accomplish our mission. We work with the Student Conservation Association, the SCA, and we also work with American Conservation Experience, ACE, to offer entry-level positions to individuals looking to get started in outdoors. And it's really a win-win all around. We offer that entry-level work, and we also get help with maintaining our recreation sites and trails. We also have a lot of volunteers and volunteer groups that help with everything from maintaining trails, like we have snowmobile clubs, and we have a group called, we have a group that maintains the trails at Jake's Rocks, and we also have a group that maintains an entire campground, the Friends of Twin Lakes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a lot of volunteer groups that come together to uh, keep up with the maintenance on the forest. Um, Other partners we have, I'll never be able to name them all today, but the ones that we work with in recreation a lot, we work with the conservation districts. In the summer, we provide youth conservation corps, YCCs. It's work for high school students in the area. It's a 6-week program where they get to work with all of our different resource areas and learn about Forest Service careers. And they have a chance to, get involved in the conservation world. But the conservation districts we have nearby usually put on some environmental education for the students, as well as they work with other resource areas to do things like large woody debris introduction into streams to improve stream habitat and things like that. Um, we also have visitors bureaus like the Warren County Visitors Bureau and the Allegheny National Forest Visitors Bureau. And those places the public can walk into anytime and find all sorts of information for what to do in the area, including things on the Allegheny National Forest. Additionally, we have outfitter and guides and various other special use permits. So some outfitter and guides you have the opportunity to, do guided floats down rivers like the Clarion River and Allegheny River. And they also sometimes do fishing excursions and hunting and horseback riding. And then we have some special use permits that uh, really highlight efforts of the community coming together to provide recreation for the public. For example, one event we have is the Tour de Forest, which the Marionville Fire Department hosts each year. And we actually shut down our Forest Service roads so that uh, motorized recreation users, usually ATVs, UTVs, some bikes, come out and they ride on the Forest Service roads for a weekend. And all the money benefits the local fire department in Marionville. And so those are just some highlights of the people involved in keeping the forest going, and what I love most about working at the forest. There's a lot of people come to our forest to get away, and there's plenty of opportunities to do that. But it's also a working forest full of community engagement with so many people coming together to provide meaningful experiences and protect the Allegheny National Forest.
The National Forest contains some of the most extensive tracts of remaining old-growth forests in Pennsylvania. Where can people go to explore these areas?
Yeah, so I would recommend two different areas. We have Heart's Content and we have Tionesta Scenic Area, and they offer two different experiences. So Heart's Content has some old growth trees that are about 300 to 400 years old. It's in the Heart's Content Recreation Area, which is 122 acres. That area was mostly clear cut in the 1800s, uh, but some old growth trees remain. And 20 acres of that is what we now call the Heart's Content area, which includes a campground and a day use area. And the Forest Service acquired that property in 1923. And shortly after, in 1936, the Civilian Conservation Corps came to the area and constructed campground, the picnic area, and pavilion. So the pavilion has since been destroyed. Actually, a replica CCC pavilion was built, um, and we had signs in there talking about the old growth and the huge white pines. And just last year, during a wind event, one of the large white pines near the pavilion came down and actually crushed the pavilion.
Oh
And so
no.
it's not there currently. Yeah, it's not there currently. To be decided if it gets rebuilt. But uh, nonetheless, you can still go to the area, and there's an interpretive trail and other hiking trails nearby for hiking or cross country skiing, that you can still explore the old growth timber. And if you're looking for a more primitive experience, just north of the campground is the Hickory Creek Wilderness Trailhead. And there is a 12-mile loop in that trailhead, or at that trailhead, that uh, is not really well marked. Just the experience of a wilderness. We don't blaze the trail as often, and the trail itself is less established than other trails one might be accustomed to walking on. But that wilderness area was designated in 1984, and it's close to 9,000 acres. So that's a great way to explore some of the old growth timber near the Heart's Content area. And then, in addition to Heart's Content, we also have the Tionesta Scenic Area, and it's a different story. I'll get to that, but basically, there is a small trailhead there that you can use to access the area. There's, I think, about 2,000 acres of old growth timber with large stands of northern hemlock. This area was purchased by the Allegheny National Forest in 1934, and then an additional 2,000 acres, which is now known as the Tionesta Research Area, was also set aside, and that was for monitoring and research of the natural unmangled old growth forest. And so, that's a lot of acres altogether, protecting the large old growth forest. Um, there are trails that run through that area for you to experience and look around. We have the North Country National Scenic Trail. We normally call that the North Country Trail, and it passes through the Tionesta Scenic area. Um, there's also the Twin Lakes Trail that connects with the North Country Trail that you can walk through that old growth timber and all the way down to the Twin Lakes Recreation Area. It's about a 16-mile hike, so usually people would probably camp along the way and make a couple-day trip out of it. But the different story here at Tionesta is that in 1985, an F4 tornado came through the area, and that caused widespread blowdown and wind throw of the trees. And I was looking through our website, and actually the tornado plowed through total of 70 miles through Pennsylvania, which uprooted over 90,000 trees. And it says that the path was nearly 2/3 of a mile wide.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so that was 30 years ago. And if you walk through those trails, I've walked on them before, you see huge trees, mostly blown down, and it really does just highlight, the mass destruction some wind events can cause.
With over 200 miles of hiking trails, 53 miles of cross-country skiing trails, and 18 miles of interpretive trails, the Allegheny National Forest offers a variety of hiking experiences. Do you have any hiking recommendations for first-time visitors?
Yeah. Okay. So, yep, we have a few different opportunities for first-time hikers on the Allegheny National Forest, or even just first-time visitors that are looking for a good hike. I'll go over a few here today. We also encourage our visitors to call any of our Forest Service offices to get a recommendation on hikes. We have plenty more than what I'm going to go into here today. But one experience I have for visitors that are just looking for a short hike for a day visit, it's a loop hike, and it's at the Twin Lakes area. The Twin Lakes campground was also built in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And there you'll see one lake. It's called Twin Lakes, but there's actually only one lake there. I'm not 100% sure on the story, but I believe the funding ran out before they could construct a second lake. Rumor has it that Twin Lakes was constructed, and shortly after Lolita was constructed, where there's also an impoundment. So sometimes we say that the second lake of Twin Lakes is our Lolita campground. But nonetheless, at Twin at Twin Lakes, there's a 10-acre lake, and there's a short trail. It's about a mile, I believe, that goes along around the lake, and so that can be a really great experience for someone that's just looking for a short loop walk for a day visit. And there's also a pavilion there and a swing set and a sand beach that you can take advantage of swimming or picnicking while you're there. And it's off any major highways and there's no like roads or anything that go through there, so it's really peaceful to spend the day at Twin Lakes. Another option we have for somebody that has time for a longer visit, either a full day of hiking or you can combine it into an overnight backpacking trip. We have our Minister Creek Trail, and this is about a 7.5 mile loop. And halfway through the loop, the trail intersects with the North Country Trail, and there's a stream that goes through there, and there's a really great opportunity for setting up a campsite overnight, access to water, and plenty of already impacted areas to put up tents. And so you can hike halfway and set up camp, or you can go the full way in one day. But if you complete the full loop, the end of the loop is a overlook that overlooks a beautiful valley of all you can see is just trees and trees and trees, and it's really nice. It's way up high, and you can see the change in the landscape as you get up there, going from a lot of vegetation in the understory to just the large trees, and it's really cleared out up top there. So it's a really rewarding hike with a lot of different changes in vegetation along the way and a nice overlook, um, and really peaceful area. It's not a wilderness area, but it feels like one when you're walking through it. It's very primitive, and um, it's a really nice experience. And then I'll also highlight just one more trail for a first-time visitor that's near the Allegheny Reservoir. So if people are camping at the Red Bridge campground, or if they are just coming for a day visit, we have the Kinsey Valley Trail, and um, that's another example of our partners getting to work forming the Kinsey Valley Trail. Actually, when I joined the Forest Service a couple years ago, I had to ask a couple people if that trail was a Forest Service trail or if it was like the partners owned the trail and it ran through Forest Service land, just because of how much work they really put towards maintaining the trail. Um, but this trail actually it intersects a part of our forest, but I believe it goes all the way to um, it goes outside of the Forest Service boundary. I think it goes all the way to the Kinsey Skywalk at this point, or close to it. Um, but the section that I'm thinking of goes from Red Bridge. I believe it's maybe 8 to 10 miles that takes you to Westline. And depending on where you get on the trail, the beginning can be kind of steep, but if you start at Westline, it's a really flat trail. It's actually a great cross-country skiing trail, and it goes along a stream the whole way. And there's waterfalls and there's beaver activity, so you can see a lot of wildlife. And um, it's a very moderate hike if you get on at Westline. Can't promote any local businesses as a Forest Service representative right now, but there are some wonderful dining opportunities nearby if you get on it at Westline. So a really nice experience for a first-time visitor. Like I said, those are just a couple different ways you can get out hiking for the first time. But again, if you're looking for something specific or want more options, just call our front desk at any office, Bradford, Marionville, or the Warren Supervisor's office, and then we can get some more information to you.
You spoke a little bit about the overlooks that are available. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the overlooks?
So we have a lot of overlooks throughout the forest. Um, we have some of the best ones are up at Jake's Rocks and Rimrock, and so those are overlooking the Allegheny Reservoir. Um, Up at Jake's Rocks, there's also a mountain biking trail system there. A lot of people go to Jake's for the mountain bike trails these days, but there's also a through road that you can pull off at numerous locations and see the reservoir, including one overlook that you can actually see the dam So you can see the dam down below, and so that's a really great view. Uh, Up at Rimrock, there's a couple more overlooks there. This overlook is a little bit less accessible to some visitors than Jake's Rocks. There are some stairs and a little bit steeper terrain. It's still doable for most visitors, uh, and it's a short hike, and it provides really great views up top um, of the reservoir and looking out. But also you have the experience if you want to keep going, you can hike down some really impressive stone staircases that I cannot tell you how they built them back in the day. Just a lost art that would be very hard to replicate these days. But you go down the staircase and you can actually go down a trailways into the forest there. And if you visit Rimrock in the summer, it's usually has quite a bit of people on the weekends. Lots of kids running around. They love it there. Really great opportunities for photos at both those locations. There's also a lot of overlooks along the Longhouse Scenic Drive at various stopping locations. Some of those currently need to be cut out. That's one of the hidden aspects of overlooks that you sometimes don't notice as a visitor is that a lot of those trees need to be cut down every 3 to 4 years, and it's usually on pretty steep terrain. It can be pretty challenging to cut them. So for now, I'd recommend Jake's and Rimrock for overlooks, and maybe in a few years here after we do some major road construction on Longhouse Scenic Drive, those overlooks will be opened back up. And then I'll just say two more overlooks. One would be the Kinsey Point Information Center. This is less of a traditional type of overlook. It's more of a place that you can pull off. There are bathrooms there, and in the summer, it's staffed by the Warren County's Visitors Bureau to provide information to the public. But there is a path there, very short. It's just a roadside pull off where you can see the Kinsey Bridge and the Allegheny Reservoir, and so that is a very accessible opportunity for people to get a stunning view. And finally, we have the Tidiu Overlook. Um, that it's also just a nice day picnic area, but it's not. There's no major highway like at Kinsey Point, so it's just off a smaller road, and you can have a quiet picnic there. There's a very short loop trail, like maybe a quarter mile long, with two different overlooks along it and a restroom right there. So a couple different opportunities for overlooks on the forest.
And now, let's hear from our sponsors. It's Saturday morning in your favorite kind of weather. It's a day for hiking. Clearly marked blazes guide you safely along the unobstructed trail, allowing you to get lost in the wonder in nature. Keystone Trails Association makes these moments possible for you in Pennsylvania's great outdoors. KTA's members are dedicated to providing, preserving, protecting, and promoting recreational hiking trails and hiking opportunities in Pennsylvania. Join KTA to help protect the trails you love. New members use the code HELLBENDERS at www.kta-hike.org to save $5 on a yearly membership. Are you looking for your next adventure? Unlock some of the best landscapes in Pennsylvania with incredibly detailed, highly curated, waterproof trail maps from the folks at Purple Lizard. They created extraordinary maps of Pennsylvania state forests for people who love to explore the outdoors. Find them at your local outfitters, bike shops, and bookstores, or visit purplelizard.com, where your next adventure begins. The Pennsylvania Parks and Forest Foundation is celebrating their 25th anniversary. Since 1999, they remained a cornerstone supporting state parks and forests by creating accessibility and diversity opportunities, restoring habitats, providing educational opportunities, engaging in advocacy, and promoting the health benefits of being outdoors. In 2007, they started to record successes. They and their 46 chapters have logged over 680,000 volunteer hours and completed more than 2,000 service projects. The work of the foundation and its friends groups could not exist without you. Thank you for being a part of a legacy of conservation for the future of Pennsylvania state parks and forests. To join their mission or to download resources for exploring state parks and forests, visit them online at paparksandforests.org. All right, back to the show. The forest has several camping and cabin options. What can you tell us about the different options available and how can people book cabins or campsites?
Sure. So the Allegheny National Forest has 16 campgrounds, which includes 5 boat access campgrounds. And so those are all throughout the forest, mostly in the northern part of the forest, known as the Bradford Ranger District. Um, and for 15 of those campgrounds, they're operated by a campground concessionaire, currently called Allegheny Site Management. And so most of those campgrounds are booked through recreation.gov. Um, the exception is we have Minister Creek, Kelly Pines, and all 5 of those Boat 2 campgrounds. They do not accept reservations. They are only first come, first serve. And so, if you show up to any of those first come, first serve campgrounds, if somebody's at a spot, it's occupied, and otherwise, if it's vacant, it's open for your stay. And so again, those are Minister Creek, Kelly Pines, and the Boat 2 campgrounds. Those Boat 2 campgrounds, one of them is accessible through a day hike, and that's Morrison. And so I think it's about, I don't even want to guess, it's about 8 miles total, I think, to get down to the reservoir and back up. So maybe about 4 miles to get to the reservoir from the Morrison parking lot. But yeah, so you can hike down to Morrison, but more commonly people are accessing that campground by boat, along with the 4 other Boat 2 campgrounds, where they'll launch a boat or kayak at one of our launches, and just spend the weekend at one of those sites that otherwise can't typically be accessed by other ways of recreation. I will say at those Boat 2 campgrounds, there is no cell phone service. There's a tiny bit of service sometimes at Morrison. The rest have no service. So if you are looking to camp at one of our Boat 2 sites, just plan accordingly. Plan ahead and just be prepared that there is no cell phone service there. If something were to go wrong, it can take some time to get a hold of somebody by phone or radio, or otherwise, make it back to a road with your boat or kayak or canoe. And then for cabin opportunities, we have a couple of different locations. We have the Farnsworth cabin, and that's an individual cabin that you can book through Allegheny Site Management or through recreation.gov. And it's near a fish hatchery, but it is, like I said, private on its own. So you won't have any neighbors aside from the fish hatchery there. And then we have cabins in 2 of our campgrounds. We have 3 cabins at Redbridge and 11 cabins at Willow Bay. And so those are great opportunities if you have large groups that need multiple buildings. You can book those. Just make sure you get on rec.gov in advance. I believe they can be booked 6 months out. So they usually get booked pretty quickly throughout the season. And then the last campground we have is Twin Lakes, and that's not operated by a concessionaire. That's operated by the Friends of Twin Lakes volunteer group currently. And those reservations cannot be made on rec.gov at this time. They are currently made by the Friends group. And so if you're looking for more information on how to book a site at Twin Lakes, please visit our website and get the contact info for how to reserve a campsite there.
The 7,647-acre Allegheny Reservoir spans the border between Pennsylvania and New York and is surrounded by the National Forest. What are some of the ways visitors can explore the reservoir?
So there's lots of opportunities to visit and explore the reservoir. Like I mentioned, there's some of those Boat 2 campgrounds. There's also campgrounds that are, accessible via vehicle that are along the reservoir, like Cayuga, Redbridge, Dewdrop, Willow Bay, are just a few examples of campgrounds that you can drive into and have sites right on the water there. There are fishing piers, which are currently under construction for repairs, but we do have a couple of fishing piers along the reservoir up at Webb's Ferry and Elijah. Aside from the piers, most people are typically fishing off the shoreline. We have one Redbridge bank fishing opportunity that's pretty popular by Redbridge Campground. Otherwise, people, as I mentioned, are just pulling off on the side of the road. There's a couple different pull-offs along the reservoir and fishing from the shoreline. That is to say, if you're not fishing from a boat, which I'd say is most popular, a lot of fishing boats on the reservoir. So you can access the reservoir via boat or canoe at a couple of different locations. There's Elijah, Webb's, and Roper. and those are at various access points along the reservoir. There's also it's currently called the Kinzu Wolferon Marina, and there's a restaurant there and a boat launch and like a marina for boats to dock. Um, but you can also launch your boat there. Those are the formal launches. There is at least one other place that you can access the reservoir with canoe. Um, and you can launch a boat there too, but I'll just stick with the formal ones that you can find on the map for now, as ways you can access the reservoir. And then I'll say, aside from the water activity and being on the water, and there are a lot of day use areas and beaches. For example, there's Kinzu Beach and Kayasuta Beach. Both of those have pavilions and restrooms there that you can use for the day, large parking lots that can accommodate large groups of people. The Kayasuta Beach is operated by our concessionaire and does require a day use fee. And otherwise, the Kinzu Beach is open to the public with no fee this time. Right now, we do have a host at the area that can provide information and maintains the site. And for hiking opportunities, there are a couple different trails around. The North Country Trail passes around the southern end of the reservoir, and we also have Morrison Trail. As I mentioned, you can hike down to the reservoir to that campground. And then there are various trails that offer those overlooks we previously talked about up near Jake's Rocks and Grim Rock, for example.
Aside from the reservoir, the forest has numerous bodies of water to explore, including the Allegheny River, Clarion River, and many more miles of creeks and streams. What sort of water activities are popular there?
Yeah, so we have a lot of kayaking, canoeing, tubing, and camping on the Allegheny Wilderness Islands. Those are national designated wilderness area as well. We have those two areas. We have the Hickory Creek Wilderness and the Allegheny Islands Wilderness. And the Allegheny Islands Wilderness is on the Allegheny River. It's part of the Allegheny Wild and Scenic River. It's about 368 acres. It's between Buckaloons and Tionesta. And so people can put in a couple different locations around there. You can go to our website to find the different areas you can launch from to experience those wilderness islands. You can even launch from downtown Warren and get to the islands in a short day trip, or do an overnight camping trip and actually camp on the islands. We also have camping at designated sites along the Clarion River, and so people can again put it in at numerous locations, or even just camp along the roadway there at designated sites. And so we just have a lot of use along the Clarion River. So you can't camp anywhere. You have to make sure you're camping in a designated site there. But there's about 20 sites along the river, and additional 10 nearby Millstone. And so lots of opportunities for camping, but they do get populated pretty quickly by the public. So just have a backup plan in mind if you come to camp for the weekend and all the spots are already taken. Other than camping along the rivers, we have really phenomenal bird watching and wildlife viewing at the Buzzard Swamp area. And again, as I mentioned, there's swimming available at Kinzu Beach, Kayasuta Beach, Twin Lakes, and Lolita Campground.
Allegheny National Forest is home to over 150 miles of trails for mountain biking. Where would you recommend mountain bikers go to see what the forest has to offer?
So the premier spot for mountain biking on our forest is Jake's Rocks mountain biking system. The Forest Service partnered with the Warren County Development Association and created trails at Jake's Rocks. I believe currently there's 32 miles built in this trail system. We are planning 14 more miles to be built in the future. And so this trail system is located off of the Longhouse National Scenic Byway. And there are different trail segments of varying skill levels. So really something for any mountain biker from beginner to advanced. The newest development in the trail system is that Class 1 e-bikes are now permitted on the trail system. So users looking for a place to ride now have that opportunity at Jake's Rocks for the Class 1 e-bikes. If you are riding the trail system at Jake's Rocks and you're coming for more than a day trip, you're looking for a place to stay overnight, the closest campground is Dewdrop. It's just a couple miles down the road, and there are shower houses there. It's more of a primitive campsite, though. There are sites on the water and sites off the water too, depending on what you're looking for at Dewdrop in a formal campground. Otherwise, for a more primitive camping experience, there are dispersed sites right near the trailhead on Forest Service Road 160 and Forest Service Road 259 to camp overnight while using the Jake's Rocks trail system.
How much time do you think people need to explore what the forest has to offer?
Well, people grow up here and, they still find new places to explore all the time. It's just, the forest is so full of lots of different opportunities, especially recreational opportunities. But I know that most individuals and families are only able to get away on the weekends, and that's great for exploring one area. That's what I would say is that if you only have a weekend, just I'd say bunker down in one of our campgrounds or dispersed sites areas, and take in nature and spend your time in that area. But if you're able to, certainly try to book a longer stay, including the weekdays. A lot of our use is on the weekends, and so it's quite a different experience if you're able to come to the forest and camp on the weekdays. It feels a lot more magical. I'd say you get you can hear wildlife more. There's less motorized noise. You see less visitors. You see that kind of you get that solitude, more of solitude if you come during the weekdays. And you also have the opportunity to get to know one recreation area and also take day trips out to numerous different areas throughout the week. So a weekend's perfect for a short visit and some time away. But if you can come for a full week and have more time to explore, I'd suggest getting closer to that 5-7 day window.
Knowing that, and let's just say a visitor only has a couple hours, they're going through the area and they just want to see something cool in the forest, what do you think they should experience?
Yeah, I'd say visit one of our day use areas. You can see those on our website, or you can call our front desk, or if you're just looking for some quick information, a couple areas that we have are Lolita, Twin Lakes, Heart's Content, Kinzu Beach, Cayasupa Beach, Beaver Meadows, Buzzard Swamp. That's a few examples of some different day use areas that you can go, and you could swim, you could have a picnic, create art, stare at a tree, watch your kids find fun in the simplicity of nature. You could write poetry, read a book, all kinds of experiences. I think a lot of the time when people um, think recreation, they think moving your bodies a lot and a lot of physical exertion, but a lot of joy um, and benefits can be found just by going someplace to do um, other activities that don't necessarily require that physical nature of most recreation offerings. Um, like I said, if you're looking for a short loop trail, there's a great one at Twin Lakes. There's also about a 3 mile trail at Lolita, a loop trail, and Brush Hollow has a trail system that has a couple different loops that you can try out. There's more loop trails around the forest. Those are just a few examples. Um, just recommend, trying to find somewhere where you can slow down for a few hours and enjoy the beauty of the forest.
And I understand if somebody is trying to plan a trip and it seems overwhelming, because if you look at the forest on a map of Pennsylvania, it is enormous. So I highly recommend going to the forest offices, talking to staff, getting some recommendations, making phone calls, because they know the area much better than you, and they can definitely help you much more than maybe some random blog on the internet.
Yeah, certainly. If you talk to people, you'll get an update, on the current condition of trails, or maybe there's a closure going on. Um, maybe they know of some exciting wildlife opportunities that are currently happening. So yeah, definitely a great idea to call in and see what's going on.
Is there something everyone should experience when they visit?
I would personally say going to the Allegheny Reservoir. I just think that there's something for everybody to do around the reservoir. Whether you want that boating experience, kayaking, swimming, you want you want a day hike, you want to camp in a campground, you want to do a scenic drive, you want to go to an overlook. Um, if you've never been to the forest, or specifically if you've never been to the Allegheny Reservoir, I'd look at the map and pick something to do around there because you're going to have um, outstanding views and many different ways to get some tranquility in the Allegheny National Forest. It's just something to do for everybody there. Look for the Allegheny Reservoir.
In your opinion, when do you think is the best time to visit the forest?
Anytime. There's something good every season. I can't really pinpoint an exact season. My favorite season is the fall with the leaves changing. It's, I think fall is pretty in cities. It's pretty in national forests. It's really outstanding everywhere. Uh, but uh, there's lots of great times to visit the forest. Like currently, it's June right now, and mountain laurel's blooming, and lots of other wildflowers are blooming. So that's really pretty in itself. Driving around, seeing the different flowers bloom, and the birds are nesting and birds are starting to hatch. So the spring, early summer is a great time. Getting into the middle of summer, it's so warm. It makes those water activities really enjoyable for people. Uh, the temperature in the reservoir takes some time to warm up. So if you come at the end of June, early July, the water's finally warm enough to be enjoyable. The fall, the leaves are changing. The winters, the past few winters have been a little bit rough, but when we get a good snow winter, there's snowmobiling, there's cross-country skiing, and then the spring, just in my personal opinion, can be a dreary time with the rain and cold and mud. So I'd recommend the fall, but there's lots of great times to see the forest.
What sort of opportunities are there for like bird watching and wildlife watching in the Allegheny National Forest?
So it depends on what you're trying to see. Uh, some good areas to go to, have the best chance of success at seeing some birds and wildlife with great access. Buzzard Swamp is a really good one. There's a hiking network through there that you can explore to see lots of different birds and wildlife. There's also Beaver Meadows, which is a less popular day use recreation site. And there is a impoundment with a body of water there and a trail that goes around it. So good opportunity for wildlife viewing. And then, um, I'm sure there's others that I can't think of right now, but also just getting out. If you look at the map and you get out on a Forest Service road, and you just, drive to somewhere where it doesn't look like there's anything else around, those are usually the times where I'll see like a black bear crossing the road or a fox running across the road. So just getting out and driving and exploring. Just be careful if you are though, because um, a lot of those roads are dirt roads, and I drive a little Honda Fit that has no ground clearance, and I probably would not take that down the roads. Um, but just go slow, and feel free to always turn around if you see a road that's getting in too bad a shape so you don't get stuck.
Speaking of roads, and something you brought up already a couple times, what is the Longhouse National Scenic Byway, and what can people see if they take it?
Yeah, so the Longhouse Scenic Byway is a 36-mile loop that circles the Kinsey Creek arm of the Allegheny Reservoir. There are several campgrounds and picnic areas along the byway, as I previously mentioned during the call, including the Jake's Rocks overlook. The byway begins at the intersection of Route 321 and Longhouse Drive. You could say the beginning's anywhere, but I'll walk you through a beginning at the intersection of 321 and Longhouse Drive. So as you start your drive, you'll pass the Red Bridge Campground recreation area, and there's also Red Bridge bank fishing right there. And as you continue your drive, you'll pass just a stretch of forest, which has hardwoods and hemlock. And as you get towards the top of 321, you'll come across the old powerhouse, which is a historic structure with some different interpretive information on the kiosk. The route will then take you to the Bradford Ranger Station, where you could stop for the day and get some more information on the Allegheny National Forest, or get a souvenir for family or friends while you're there. And if you turn left, you'll continue towards the Allegheny Reservoir, where you'll pass the Morrison Run Trail and access the Rimrock Overlooking Trail. After you pass Rimrock, you're going to come down a hill and you'll get to Kinzu Beach, where the forest opens up and you will cross Kinzu Bridge and have an excellent view of the reservoir. Right there is also the Kinzu Wolf Run Marina that has a restaurant and, boat access for boats. And then after you cross the Kinzu Bridge, you can turn left onto Longhouse Drive, which will complete your loop as you continue down Longhouse Scenic Drive. If you make a right away, you'll go up to the Jake's Rocks Overlook. And if you keep going straight, you'll pass the Dewdrop Recreation Area, which is a 2-loop campground. You'll also pass the Elijah Boat Launch and the Kayasutha Recreation Area. Kayasutha has a campground and day use area with that beach I mentioned, and also an opportunity to launch a boat at Kayasutha. As you pass Kayasutha, you'll be back to Route 321, and that will complete your 36-mile loop.
Recreation passes and permits are required for certain activities in the forest. Why would a visitor need a pass or a permit, and where can they get them?
We have a couple different reasons you would need an annual pass or a day use fee, and I'm going to try to capture them all here today, but you can also visit our website, which has a lot of good information on passes and fees. And so we have day use areas that are operated by our campground concessionaire, and those require a day use fee of $5, or you could also purchase an annual pass, which is $55 for unlimited access to those day use areas. Other areas that include fees are our boat launches that are Elijah, Webb's, and Roper. And that annual pass is also good for those boat launches. Other day use areas we have are Lolita Day Use Area, Kayasutha Day Use Area, and Buckaloons, and those all require that fee as well. To purchase those fees, you can purchase a pass at the Forest Service offices in Bradford, Marionville, or Warren. You can also purchase them at the Allegheny Site Management Klondike store, which is located on Route 59 near Bradford, PA. And also, additionally, the concessionaire offers you the opportunity to purchase them online at AlleghenySite.com. Permits are also required for motorized ATV trails. So ATV permits are $35 for the year or $10 for the day, and all the proceeds go back into the motorized trail system. The permits can be purchased at the Forest Service offices or through our local vendors. Currently, our local vendors are Forest Lodge in Marionville, Leisure Time in Bradford, Myers Motorsports in Kane, and Route 66 Sporting Goods in Chippenville. All of their info is on our website if you're looking for more info on purchasing the permits.
Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting the forest?
My number one tip would be to follow the 7 principles of Leave No Trace. Leave No Trace offers principles to safely recreate and also protect the environment while doing so. You can visit the Leave No Trace website ahead of time to get an overview of those. If you're planning on visiting the Allegheny National Forest, look into those 7 principles of Leave No Trace, and it will really help create a good experience for your trip and also for those that come after you.
Well, Jamie, I want to thank you for speaking with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me today, and hope a lot of people get to enjoy the information here. And like I said, if there's anything you want to know more about, visit our website or call into one of our offices. We'd be happy to help you.
I want to thank my guest, Jamie Feichels, for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohellbenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. If you're a Pennsylvania business interested in advertising with the podcast, email us at hemlockstohellbenders@gmail.com. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.